welcome back to Nopes and Opes, guys. We're here, new location, back in.
Not new.
Well,
like different.
It is different, but the podcast, the viewers have never seen this location.
Oh, this is a new
our
video.
first ever time recording, the first 2 or 3, was here.
Oh God!
But
yeah,
we never released it because they were kind of like feeler episodes. We were like, is this worth something? And then we started at my apartment.
And nobody's ever seen this apartment. Oh God!
No,
that makes it much more pressure filled for sure. Because I think probably the people that listen to this are well aware, but maybe if this ever gets like bigger and there's people that don't know me and haven't listened to that, the people might not realize like how private and like how few people have actually been in this apartment.
No.
And if you actually do get to like walk through the doorway and actually enter this like sanctum, like how rare and kind of special that is.
Yeah. This is basically like going into Batman's Batcave.
Kind of, in a way. I mean,
I'm Robin, you're Batman.
Whatever. I'll be Robin, but I don't want to make it that big. But at the same time, it's like for me to open. Yeah, I didn't realize that this was the first kind of video recording of my space, and that adds a little bit. That adds a lot, actually.
Well, there's a lot of things that are special about this episode. So, one, this is the first time me and Hylan have seen each other in about a month. It's been a while. We've kind of had some traveling things. I've been having stuff going on in my life. Hylan's been doing things, and we took a little break. Now we're back. Also, we're now celebrating
I don't even think we
year.
took a break. I think everybody, like, it was just freaking busy.
It was busy.
Like, it wasn't, like, I definitely do not feel like
we
I
weren't
took a break.
trying to take a break, but in a way, it was a little bit of one.
It was maybe like a forced break.
Yeah, and we're also celebrating a year of the podcast as of November 19th.
I feel like I say these same words all the time, but to me, that's just crazy. Like, that's mind-blowing. Like, I do not even understand how that's possible. And I do understand how that's possible because I've seen the amount of work that you put into each of these episodes, and hopefully it's appreciated by everybody that does listen. But like for me, however many episodes we've made or whatever is really pretty minimal, right? I just show up and talk, and then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, or whatever. But the amount of work that Rowan has to do to make each episode like worthy and good and presentable, and then actually get it out into the world is incredible and very, very time consuming and very like annoyingly just mundane and repetitive, and the amount of times that you've had to eliminate ums and likes and this and that, and it's just like I gotta say, like, I am super, super impressed and appreciative, and I cannot thank you enough. Like, I hope that people can understand how much work Rowan does, and then how appreciative I am of that work, for sure.
Well, thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Just a preface before we get into this episode, Hylan made some drinks. Hylan is kind of a wizard with concoctions. He always makes drinks, but there's never really a recipe. It's just kind of whatever you're feeling on the day.
Well, it's the same for food too. Like my friends, a lot of my friends are Indian, like from India, and one of my friends, Satya, is like one of the best cooks I've ever had the pleasure of eating with, or eating like their food, but he gets like kind of angry at me because he's just like, Hylan, because like I'll make dips or like, you know, I just throw everything that I have in my refrigerator into a bowl, and then like give some chips or something, and
it's
like
surprising that it works. That's the thing that's most frustrating.
Well, like Satya just like, Hylan, like how do you, like, I need to make this, and I'm like, buddy, like, and usually, like, admittedly, there's probably drinks being served at the same time, so I might not be as coherent as I need to be, but I'll be like, buddy, like, I'm sorry, like, I don't know what went into this. Like, I threw some of this, I threw some of that, like a little bit of that, and then, oh yeah, I had some of that, and da da da. And he's just like, no, but Hylan, like, how did you make it? Like, what are the, like, and I'm just like, I don't know. I have no idea. And he just gets like, because he wants to replicate it.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, sorry.
It's impossible.
Can't be replicated.
Yeah. So, and the same thing goes with your drinks.
Yeah.
So I'm having a few drinks. I'm also a lightweight. Hylan, this is what, your second, maybe third?
The second.
This is the second. So we might be a little loose this episode, which is fine because this is kind of a celebration episode. We hope if you're listening, have a drink with us. If it's in the morning, don't. But later, feel free to join us and
have a drink of water.
Kind of, yeah,
orange juice.
have a glass of water.
Coffee. Yeah.
Coffee. There you go.
But also, I just want to say, for like in that regard, oftentimes the first episode that we record when we get together is usually kind of a throwaway episode. And so this is like not like I don't want to just make it seem like, let's just like get drunk and
let's
like
just screw it up.
Yeah. This is actually kind of a little bit of an experimentation just to see if maybe just being a little bit looser and just kind of like going with the flow a little bit will help. And maybe this episode could be something that we can actually utilize.
Well, I've also always wanted to do an episode where we kind of like sit back, have a drink, kind of relax, and just kind of, I don't know, chat about whatever, which is kind of what we do. But for the most part, when we chat, it kind of gets a little philosophical. We get a little deep into life and meaning, which I think comes with alcohol as well. You know, I've had many talks with people when drinks are involved, and it just gets to a weird, real place. And I'm like, interesting.
Well, for me, I have to be a little bit careful because, I don't think you and I, I don't want to speak for yourself, but at this point in my life, I am not a big drinker by any means. Like, I don't, it's very rare for me to actually have a drink or two. And like, actually, when like Tipu and I went out the other day and we went to a brewery and we had a flight each of 4 different beers, like the little tiny, like, I don't know what they're called, like
samplers or shooters or something like that.
Whatever those are, and then a beer, and we both kind of look at each other and we're like, "Oh, buddy, like, who's driving home?" Like, we were both just like, "Yikes!" Like, we might have to hang out here a little bit. But yeah, I mean, every once in a while, and for me, I just think I really I really enjoy. I'll never drink by myself, but like sharing a drink with a friend is the same as sharing food.
Yeah.
Like, for me, that is worthwhile. Like, if somebody says, "Hey, do you want to go out and get a drink together, or do you want to go out and share some food, or even in the apartment?" That's something that I think is really special and something that I will always cherish and something that I will take advantage of for sure. Because I just think. Like community and connection and friendships and relationships and just like having moments to share. I don't know if I'm just getting like recently, man. And I mean, I don't know what this episode is actually going to go into, but recently I just realized, like, I don't know if I'm just getting old or whatever, but all I want to do is just tell people I love them. Like all the time. Like, my students, I've been telling, like, and I don't know if it's super awkward, but my mom, like, just my family, my friends, like that. And for me, that's really weird because that's not something that comes very, like, I think about those words a lot, and I think those words should be very, very carefully used.
We had talked about it on the podcast that it's very, like, for you to, you had said something along the lines of, like, saying the words, like, "I love you," not just like, "I love you, buddy," but like, "I love you" is very important because you mean them. You don't say things just to say them.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people throw around the words, like, "I love you," just as kind of like a blanket, like, "Oh my God, I love that for you. Like, I love you." And it's like, do you really? Like, will you show up for me?
Yeah.
So I understand that, like, it means more for you. But it's kind of wild to hear that you're saying it more, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know exactly what I was going with that, but yeah, I've been saying it a lot. And I hope it's not awkward for the students, but my contract at this current position ends at the end of November, and I might work into December, whatever. But like a lot of kids have been coming up to me, and they're like, "Are you leaving?" And we've had some pretty intense conversations, and it's like yeah, but inevitably it leads to like, guys, like if I leave, if I don't leave, whatever. Like, I just really want you to know, like, I do care about you. Like, I really do love you. Like, I show up every day, and I might not make the best decisions, and I might not be, like, doing exactly what I should do every single moment. But, like, I am doing the best that I think in every single moment because I actually care, because I do actually love and like cherish these moments with you. And like, it's been, I don't know. It's just been awesome. Like I don't know about everybody, but recently, like these last 10 years, I've really enjoyed getting older because it's been very freeing and very just kind of liberating for me. Like I've
Do you feel like your connections have gotten deeper?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I just feel like I call my mom like once every 6 months, and people just freak out. They're like, Hylan, you are the worst son ever. And maybe I am, right? Like maybe not maybe, I should call my mom more often for sure. But like, if anybody knows me, like talking on the phone is actually, it's like physically painful for me. Like it's not a fun thing. But recently, I have enjoyed calling my mom and just talking to her. And one of the things that's really strange to me, but before, like when I would think about calling my mom, like I'd actually have to think and like prepare myself and get myself hyped up, and then like get through the conversation. And then like in that preparation, in that kind of hyping up, I would think about how I was going to end it. Like if she said this, then I would say this. And when she says like, I love you, Hylan, then like I'll say the same thing back to her. And sometimes I was successful, sometimes I wasn't.
So you were looking for like an exit strategy, technically?
Yeah, like I would try to plan out the whole conversation, because that's how difficult and just strange it is for me to talk on the phone. So if I don't answer your phone call, please do not be too upset with me, because it's just not fun for me to talk on the phone. But recently, like I just talked to my mom the other day actually, and it was super smooth. Like we got to the end. Like she said that she loved me. I said that I loved her, and it was totally smooth and natural and like real, and nothing awkward about it and nothing forced on my end. And I just got done, and I kind of hung up the phone, and I was like, that's the way it should be. Like that's the way that but it's just so strange, because like for me, like that's not a natural thing. But yeah. So I don't, maybe I'm rambling.
No, you're not rambling.
I'll stop.
No, you're totally fine. No, I think that's really cool, and it's funny. So I have to ask, and I don't. We don't need to get super deep, but like for your family, is the phrase of "I love you" and saying that I love you normalized? Like, do your parents say that a lot when you were growing up, or is it kind of like not a normal thing?
Oh man, my dad, I think it was forced, but he would say it a lot. Like I knew that my dad loved me, and I think it's strange because I think my sisters and my brother and I had a very different experience. But like I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I knew my dad loved me. I knew my dad was proud of me. I knew my dad cared about me. I knew my dad had my back. Like my dad, I knew I was his son, and that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And he did a really good job, I think, for me personally, in communicating that and making me feel that way, even though it wasn't said a lot. My mom, not on the other hand, she was like effusive with the I love yous. Like she would just say it all the time, and I just felt it, and it was just too much. I couldn't handle it. Like I just, she just loved me too much. Like I like a lot of times I didn't feel like I was worth it. And you know that goes into whole other things, but she just loved the heck out of me, and she still does. And just recently, I've gotten to the point where it's like, it's okay for my mom to love me as much as she does. Like it's, oh man, now it's getting into like almost crying territory.
I was worried about that.
Yeah.
When we started talking about it, I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop. Like, actually, I hope my mom listens to this episode. I don't know if she listens or not, but no, my mom, she loved the heck out of me.
Yeah.
Like she loved me too much. Like I couldn't handle it as a younger person. Even as I grew up, like I had a hard time accepting as much love as she had for me. And like I'm very analytical, like, and she's very emotional. And like for me, I analyze it like what does she love? Like what is she thinking? What and you know, try to put it into like data and numbers and graphs and this and that, like in my brain. And she was just, you know, she just
led with emotion.
Yeah, love was flowing out of her, right? And like what I don't know if I told this story. Like one of the things, like as a kid, like I've said that I don't believe in regrets, but one of the things that I wish that I had done differently, and that I make a concerted effort to do now, even though I'm not a big hugger, but when I got home from kindergarten, kindergarten was a big deal for me. Like I had a hard time going to kindergarten, but I would get home, you know, at 12:30, whatever, and my mom would have lunch ready for me, and I would walk in the door and I'd throw my backpack in the hallway, and then go sit down at the table, like ready to eat lunch. And I knew this even as a 5-year-old kid. My mom would be behind the counter, like preparing whatever, and she'd be like, "Hylan, how was your day?" And I'd just be like, "Fine." Like even then, I was very like concise and like very like kind of closed with my words. And I realized throughout our little 5-minute conversation after kindergarten every day, I realized even then, as a 5-year-old kid, and I realize it now, and it hurts a little bit, but I realized all she wanted me to do was to give her a hug, and I wouldn't do it, and I purposefully would sit at that table like defiantly, like I am not giving in. I am not going to give you a hug.
Listen, I had a hard day at the office.
Yeah, I am not going to give you what you want, and it's that's something that like. So now I try to make up for it. Like now I try to be a hugger and try to say that like I love you. But even now, like even though like I love my mom without a doubt, like absolutely, but even now there's still a thought process behind it. Like even now there's a measurement, like, Hylan, if you say these words, like do you properly like back it up? Do you like are you saying them in the correct manner? Yeah. So
well, hey man, I mean, but it's nice to hear that you're kind of what it sounds like relaxing into it. I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Well, it also, I mean, so for me personally, like my family was always so kind of open about saying those things that it kind of like naturally came easy to me. And I'm more of an emotional person than analytical.
Yeah.
So like for me, it's always been super easy. But now what's funny is I've kind of had the reverse. I've become more analytical than emotional. Because when, you know, like I was talking about Emmett with this the other day, where, so I have this issue, and I'm trying to work on it, but something I've been thinking about recently, where someone will tell me something, and it's not specifically like that they love me, but they'll compliment me in some specific way, and I like don't believe it.
Ooh, compliments are a whole nother thing.
And so on one side, I'm like, okay, it's probably me not believing myself worthy of that compliment.
Yeah.
It's something me personally. But on the other side, I sometimes go like, are you just trying to make me feel better because you think I'm upset? But I'm not upset, right? Like, for instance, this morning, so I've like really been working out. Like, I've gone 28 days in a row, like working out. I've taken rest days, but like I've like have a schedule. Like I write down the workouts. I've like really put in the work, and I like
man.
start to feel like I'm getting bigger, which is nice.
Yeah.
But my mom this morning was like, Rowan, like I can see like your muscles of your shirt more, like how they sit on you. And in my head, I was like, are you just saying that to make me like feel all big? And I get it, like it's my mom. So I'm just waiting for like someone at work to be like, oh, Rowan, then I'll be like, yes.
Yeah.
but
then it's true.
but it's, also with your mom and with your dad, it's usually like they're super supportive. So you're like, if anyone's going to give you a compliment, it'll probably be them in certain situations, like for my family, not for all families.
Can I just say something real quick? And this is just my experience recently, like working in the school that I'm at and stuff. But like, let's say mom, dad, or caregiver.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of the kids that I'm working with, like, are not with their biological mom or biological dad.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just shocking.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you make it without, I think you and I,
we have very kind of like specific experiences.
Oh, absolutely.
We're very fortunate.
We're so blessed,
Yeah.
for sure. But I'm just listening to that, and I'm like a lot of the kids that I work with don't know they have a mom or dad. Like they say, like, hey, that's my mom, that's my dad, whatever. But that just breaks my heart. Like that's something that I share these stories about my mom and my dad too, and I'm just like, and to me that's normal. Like that's what every kid should have, right? Like that's just, oh yeah, of course, everybody has a mom, everybody has a dad, everybody lives in a freaking nice house and plays sports and does this, whatever. And it's like, ooh, no. And it's actually, I'm really sad to admit this, but it's taken me almost half a century to realize, like, Hylan, you've had a freaking magical life. Like you have taken things for granted for a long time. Like you have not fully appreciated all that you have had and continue to have and will have in the future. And yeah, I just for me, because I like my I mean, I've stated this many times. My goal is to eventually like have the kids that I work with be able to share in this experience somehow. And I don't know if that will ever happen or how that will ever happen. But like if a student ever does listen to this, and like I just want to be like proper and respectful and inclusive and just address things in a way that makes everybody feel
included
and wanted and just appreciated and whatever your experience is.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, we'll do our first switchover in a while. Let's see if I can stay in that zone. The drinks are hitting me. This one drink, that's the worst part, is it's just one single drink, but oh well, So in terms of, what I wanted to bring up, you were just talking about like wanting to include everyone. Based on your experiences as a social worker and in schools, you hear a lot about children and their different experiences.
Yeah.
I kind of want to talk about, since we're at a year with the podcast, I kind of want to, I've been thinking a lot about kind of my own personal journey and kind of like what this podcast means to me and what this podcast like kind of purpose is.
Oh.
Because we talk a lot about it, like what we think.
We do.
What we think our goal is and whatnot.
Yeah.
And granted, we're halfway through and I've had some drinks. But this is kind of what I've found recently that I want to talk about from my personal experience. And Hylan, you can talk about yours. But like what the podcast means to me. And what I've kind of found through this year is that this podcast has really been a platform for us to have an open communication and a vulnerability into just what we think about life and how we experience it, right? Because I've talked about a lot of my personal struggles, whether it be my transition periods from a relationship, losing a job, my grandparents and their dementia. I've talked a lot about that. You've had episodes where you've talked about your past. You talk about your parents. You talk about kind of your vulnerability with discovering things about yourself, being 50 years old and whatnot. And I think what's kind of happened for me is that, like, what I hope this podcast is it just encourages people to have more honest conversations and being comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Not that you necessarily have to make a podcast about it. Not that I'm shameful in any way, but I just like having it, because what's funny is when people ask me about the podcast and whatnot, I start to be like, I don't want you to watch it. And not because I'm ashamed of it.
Said those words.
Not because I'm ashamed of it. I love this podcast and I love what we talk about it. But because I'm like, you are going to know all of the vulnerabilities that I have. Because the podcast is kind of like my authentic version of what I think, how I go through life, and how I carry myself at work is a little bit different. Because, well, not that you can't be honest at work, but like I can't come into work and be like, oh man, this is going on in my life, because then you're just kind of like drowning people in your own stuff. Like, it's not the kind of natural way.
I have a question. What is it about this medium? Because, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but I have shared things that I never intended to share in any way on this podcast, and with the full knowledge that at some point we would like thousands and you know, whatever the number, I don't care. Right now it's 40 or 50 or whatever it is. But if there were hundreds, if there were thousands, if there were millions, whatever, at some point that there would be a lot of people that listen and kind of know things. But like why do you think you have been willing? Because up until this point, I have not been willing. There's no way in hell I would share some of the stories that I have shared on this podcast. Yeah. And what is it that you think that has opened up that like willingness, that ability, that door for me? Like I don't honestly know. Like I'm shocked. Like I get done with these episodes and I'm like, what the heck just happened? Like, why did I share that story? Like, people are gonna listen to that. They're gonna know that. Like that's forever. Like people get a chance. Like people can hear that story 4 years from now. Yeah. Like, what the heck?
They'll know your deep, dark secrets.
What are you doing?
So I do have an answer to that. I think it's like a two-part. One, and I'll make this quick, there is some weird mysticism that goes on between me and you. Like the dynamic we have as a friendship and the kind of open communication and vulnerability we have opens up like the floodgates, right? Because there will be time, like I talked about dementia of my grandparents on an episode. And with you, I got super emotional.
I'm getting emotional just thinking about it.
I know, right? Anytime I've talked about it with any other people, there's no emotion. It's kind of like I'm trying to use humor to kind of be like, hey, man, like this is life, right? And the second part is, so for me and like what I have seen, so I'm off social media, but what I saw in the past, I felt was a lot of unauthentic kind of responses. I thought all podcasts I saw were very unauthentic. A lot of the things I saw, like people weren't having honest conversations about struggle, what they're going through in life. And so I like the idea of like when I see something that I enjoy watching or communicating about, and it specifically kind of comes down to men. I think a lot of women, and I'm not trying to generalize, but like I feel like a lot of women have these open conversations with their friends and they really kind of connect on a deeper level. But I feel like a lot of guys kind of like push stuff under the rug. Like with some of my guy friends, not you, Hylan, but some of my other guy friends, like when we talk, it's very kind of like surface level. Like I don't really get to know how they're doing on an emotional standpoint. I kind of just hear, they're like, oh, I'm good. And then they're like, I tried dating this girl, it didn't work out, whatever. But it's very kind of like, eh. And that's fine for the most part. But what I like about this is I feel like this is a good, I want it to be a good example for young men and younger people in general, just to be like okay with being vulnerable. Like I like to lead by example, and the only way I can do that is by being vulnerable and talking about the things that are going on in my life, just to kind of normalize it. I don't think necessarily every single day every conversation you have should be this super emotional, philosophical conversation, because it's exhausting, but like it's important to like express those things, because if you internalize for too long, you can build up resentment, you can hold things in, and then they can become traumatic. And you know, it's just like I like the idea of being a good example for people. So I think that's what opened me up to it, was because you had also talked about when we first started, like you really want to have a good impact on the younger generation, because you kind of like fear for them in the world that they're growing up in, right?
Yeah,
and that kind of spoke to me, and I was like, well, what better way to do that than to lead by example, essentially.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what made me kind of do that. But as I said in the beginning, there's also this weird kind of like we start talking, and then it just happens naturally.
Yeah.
You know, like it just kind of comes out.
The amount of people that have said like the dynamic between you and Rowan is like really I don't even know the different like words that they've used, but it's basically a really good dynamic, right? Like I think people have said more eloquently than that, but no, but like I don't know. I just find it very strange for myself. Like even just thinking about the story that I just shared about my mom and my dad, and that's things that I just do not talk about, that I've never shared before. I will probably most likely never share again. But unfortunately, it's on the internet and forever. But I just like I don't necessarily understand like the why or the how of how I get to those points within this context, because I am fully aware that there is a camera right in front of me. I am
pointing right at us.
I am fully aware that I am talking into a microphone. I am fully aware that there are a bunch of lights right there, and that something is going to happen in that machine, right? Yeah. Like I am cognizant of all of these things, and yet somehow I'm just like, I want to swear right now, but I'm not going to. But I just kind of say like, screw it. I'm just gonna like tell these like deep, dark stories that I've never said to anyone else, and that I protected for so long. Yeah. In a very, very public forum. Yeah. Like I'm like, what the?
It's like
heck?
A public confessional.
How does that happen? Like, why does that happen? But I tell you what though, like every single time, because I also am very embarrassed. Like I all the time I'm like, Hylan, you gotta work on your like elevator speech for this podcast, because all the time I'm like, nah, you really shouldn't listen to it. Like that's how I like start the conversation all the time. Yeah. But like towards the end, I'm just like, it is really worthwhile, but I start off like super embarrassed about it, but at the same time, like in my mind, behind the scenes, I'm like, no, it's really, really good. Like there's amazing things that happen within that podcast. And if you do listen, like you will be privy to some amazing moments and things that will change your life and that will make things better for you.
Yeah, I think it's because we're so vulnerable in this space and doing this podcast that it's like, hey man, you're going to feel some emotions watching this. And in like day-to-day life, when you're talking to people, you're not leading with emotions, you know, like you're kind of doing the normal kind of small talk and whatnot just to kind of carry on through the day. But I feel like if you listen to our podcast, like we have some episodes where it cuts deep, man. And like, I don't see that super often in podcasts. There's one podcast specifically that I watch where that is kind of like the whole kind of theme of it. It's called John Bernthal's, who's an actor, called Real Ones. And one specific episode, John Bernthal is an actor. He's been in The Walking Dead. He was the Punisher and whatnot in the new Netflix series. So, like, a very successful actor. He's been.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Yeah.
Before, like continue with John Bernthal.
Yeah.
But all the kids at school think I look like Rick from Walking Dead. I have no idea who that is, but every single time.
Hey, that's a compliment. Rick's a good-looking guy.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Everyone's like, hey, man, you look like Rick from The Walking Dead. I'm like, I have no idea who that is, but thanks, man.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah.
This guy in a dystopian society where there's just zombies. But
okay, John Bernthal.
So John Bernthal's been in a lot of movies. He's had a lot of success, but he has this podcast, and the whole goal of it is to have on people that he deems is real ones, right? People that are very real.
Okay.
And he talks with a lot of people that have been in kind of jail, that have kind of come out and kind of seen new light. He has an amazing interview with Shia LaBeouf. And Shia LaBeouf talks about his addiction. He talks about a lot of different things. And specifically, me and Emmett have talked about that specific. Emmett's watched that episode like 12 times.
Oh, wow.
Because Shia LaBeouf dealt with a lot with addiction. He talks about love. And like, it's
he
so
has some
moving.
issues with his dad, too.
Yeah. It's a super moving podcast, right? And, you know, I watch I consume podcasts and I enjoy them. But a lot of them are very entertainment focused, right? Laughs and whatnot, and we've had a lot of moments that are really funny and really fun.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And we want to continue to do that, but it's also like I just care so much about having authentic and radical honesty, like we talked about with Dr. Anna Lemke.
Yeah,
and that has been such like an important thing for me. I just think in society and life, so that's why I lead with that on this podcast. Now, when I talk to people about it. The only reason I'm embarrassed is I'm like, I only want you to see this podcast if I like talk. If anyone else sees it that I don't know personally, by all means watch it. I would love for you to watch it to gain something from it because you don't know me personally, and it's fine. But from a personal aspect, like people I work with at the bar or whatever, right? I'm like, I share super vulnerable things. Right.
Yeah.
And you have free access to it. You can pick on whichever episode and you will hear some of the saddest moments I've experienced, my past, and I have no control over what you hear, what you don't hear, because I share it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think I have a duty to kind of be authentic with people, and those people I work with, I am authentic, but it's like, hey, this podcast is for people to see two gentlemen talk about life experiences from an authentic viewpoint, from different generational experiences.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. And we hope, for me, I don't want to speak for you, I hope it encourages you to just kind of like realize that people experience these things, that you can feel confident and that you're not alone in the journey through life. Because lot of what this podcast experience is about, and what we're going to talk about this weekend, is like just the day-to-day things that happen, right? We talk about shame and guilt. We're going to talk about dating. We talk about depression. We talk about, you know, being able to laugh at yourself. We talk about the important women in our lives. We talk about our parents. Like we talk about literally everything.
Well, I think the essence, I mean, this just makes me laugh every single time, but like the essence is like, congratulations, you're an effing human being, right? Like, that's basically what we talk about, right? Like everything of the human experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it.
And that's why it's so hard for me to like explain to people what it's about. They're like, "What's it about?" I'm like, "Everything." And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like,
everything and nothing.
Just life.
Yeah.
But at
it's
the
like
same,
Seinfeld.
But oh man, I've been watching so much Seinfeld lately. That makes me so happy. But seriously, like, I don't know.
The podcast about nothing.
Exactly. It's really, and that's what I enjoy about it, because when the thing that I'm so proud of is when we sit down and we start to talk about things, this is like our authentic viewpoint. Like we're not hiding anything. Well, you'll share emotional things. I'll share emotional things.
Well, and I think too, like I joked with Ron before, like this pod, like before we recorded this one, is like, oh, I'm gonna get dressed up because I'm gonna put jeans on, right? Like this is like, I think I've worn this same sweatshirt probably 95% of the podcasts that we've been in, right?
There might be a few episodes without it, but for the most part,
like this, like you get, like I think, like the pretense is pretty limited, right? I think like we're all kind of trying to hide a little bit, like in some regard, but I think like
everyone
in this medium, I think we do a pretty good job of stripping ourselves of all the pretenses that we can, and just kind of exposing like
there are so many times we get done with the episode, we're like, ooh, man, we revealed a lot.
I mean, you like every single time you make fun of me because like every time we get done, I'm like I turn off the mic
It's
and
a
I'm
deep
like,
breath. Yeah.
yeah, like it's a lot. So for me, I mean, I like, and that's what I appreciate. Like, I think that's the reason why I keep coming back because, like, recently, I do have to admit that I've been kind of down. I'm like, will this thing ever reach more than the 40 or 50 people that we get to consistently, right? And I don't know if it will, but at the same time, like, it's okay because every single time I show up and every single time we come together, like this weekend, I think is going to be amazing. Not even I think it's going to be amazing. It is going to be amazing, and it is going to be regenerative, and it is going to be refreshing and like soul producing, soul
Lifting, maybe.
lifting, whatever the word might be. Just because, like, for me, this is magic.
Yeah.
Like, this is something that I really, really appreciate. And if others do or don't, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
For me, I come into this space and I come into this, like, this environment because maybe I need it more than others.
I think we both need it because I feel the exact same way. Like, so it's been like probably a month, 3 weeks,
At least,
maybe
yeah.
4 weeks since we've done it, and I literally will say to myself like, I need to go talk to Hylan because this helps me kind of like recenter focus, relax, kind of. I don't know, like it just puts me in a calm that I really enjoy because without it, I start to get super critical of myself. And we've talked about it on the podcast. And it's just super nice because this ability to be super vulnerable and talk about things and have different perspectives from your older generation side and from my younger generations, it just helps me kind of like be at ease with the life because what's so nice is like that motto of like congratulations you're a human being makes it like, oh yeah, like it's okay, man, like it's all good.
We're all experiencing the exact same things.
Exactly.
Right? It's not like so many times like people come into my office at work, like at school, and they come in and they're just like, no, you don't understand. And it's like, I really do. Like I've been there. Like we're not so different. And it's just crazy to me because this is like, okay, you're like it's different. Like you're dealing with different things than I've dealt with, but the feelings, the things that you're expressing to me, I'm like, every single middle school kid has felt those exact same things.
Well, it's just that shared human experience.
Yeah.
Like your specific experience is individualized, but like you have had similar feelings about a specific topic or a situation that happened very similarly. It might not be exactly the same.
Well,
like,
I think that taps into like that just like hit a nerve for me. Like that taps into why I do this is because I share the stories that I do and everything because I want people to realize that you are unique, but all of us have felt these emotions. All of us have had these struggles. All of us have like worried about if we're good enough, if this person likes us, if we're ever going to be successful, if this, that, whatever, right? Like that's one of the things that kind of keeps me going is the fact that just like we are all in this together. Like I do want you to be okay. And if that means sharing some embarrassing stories or sharing some vulnerable stories or whatever it is, like absolutely. Like I'm finally comfortable enough to where I don't have to worry about my self-image. Like I'm good. Like whatever you think of me, go ahead. Like I really don't care. But like I just want you to know that that you are okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay. Like we can do this. And like if you need help, please reach out. But like you are not alone in this journey. All of us are human beings. All of us experience the same things. All of us like need people. All of us need help. All of us are going to be at pretty desperate times, but those times are going to pass and things are going to move forward. And let's just, I mean, for me, like I guess I'm kind of doing this because I just want to be there for you.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, in whatever way that is.
Yeah. And we can also celebrate. We can also enjoy, like a lot of these podcasts, we talk about the bad stuff, we talk about the good stuff and
absolutely.
and how we feel. And to that, I get cheers, my friend.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers to all of you listening and watching. We appreciate it. If you ever want to reach out to us, NopeOpePod@gmail.com is our email. We listen and read all of our emails. I'm a little bit tipsy, trying to end this on a high note, but we appreciate it.
Not too high though.
Yeah, not too high. Hylan's blog is available in the podcast description as well. If you ever want to check out some of his posts, along with our website.
I think there's some actually pretty good things in there.
There's a few things. There's some off ones. No, but thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you guys in the next one.